that Oi Cosmos now should officially be over. All pretty much down, cut, ended. New portion of the story is going on. There's a couple things definitely with Mishima that I didn't think he was going to be pulling around in this chapter. Because I know he said that he wasn't planning for Eden Zero to be as long as Fairy Tail, so I'm guessing it's going to be about as long as Rave Master, maybe a little bit more. Maybe another 90 to maybe like 100 and something chapters. Like, I could see this being the halfway point of Eden Zero logically, but who knows, it could go longer than that. But I was very happy, though. I didn't even mention it, I don't think, in the last chapter review, that Shiki has the robotic eye instead of a like fully healed up eye. Mishima definitely played a trick with the eye patch Shiki. The eye patch Shiki would have been so much cooler. I really would have liked the eye patch Shiki, or if he had a mechanical eye that was very obviously mechanical. The plain just it looks like his eye, but it is a mechanical eye, is still something I'm perfectly fine with. I just didn't want them to heal his eye. I'm completely fine with this, because it's like their world's like healing and adapting to wounds like that isn't magically, it's done through, you know, advanced technology and stuff. So it just make more sense to me if something was done more like a one-to-one mechanical eye, because they logically could just make one that looks like a normal eye but has robotic features and functions, and just knowing Shiki has it I think is cool. I do like that. It's because it's not the same thing as like a permanent missing piece, like an alteration of a character design, but I like that it adds to the sci-fi aspect of the series, and that is one thing I have enjoyed about Eden Zero, is that Mishima hasn't gone anywhere like that absurd yet in terms of like the character abilities. We've seen like stuff like affecting like Forestra and Granbo, but those are small planets, and the Chronophage is definitely like the crazier thing, the Chronophage and Mother, but like the characters are probably going to get way more boosted in strength, I'm guessing, when we come back to the story, and I'll talk about that a little bit at the end. But we got some moments between like all the characters, like the Shiki's like saying how his robotic eye is like has an X-ray. I really hope that means he's not gonna lose his goggles. I really like Shiki's goggles. I thought they were really cool on him. Always gave me Digimon main character vibes, but just from the fact that I liked it as like his character accessory thing. You know, Haru's got his necklace, Natsu's got his scarf, Shiki had the goggles. Even though Shiki didn't have like some personal kind of connection to him, it was just something that was cool for him to have, and I thought it was good for his design. But we'll see. Obviously, like the end of the chapter leaves it in a really odd spot, but he says he's now a member of the OTEC club. The fact he's got this robotic part on him, like, it's kind of funny actually from Jin's perspective. Like, if Jin didn't take it as like a sincere nice way from Shiki, like, just imagine how it would sound. It's like you're just this guy with like multiple mechanical limbs and parts, and you have this guy who just has one mechanical line. He's like, I'm part of the club now. He just like, sure, yeah, man, yeah, good for you. But obviously Shiki's actually sincere about it, so that's just one thing I thought was actually kind of funny about the character, of like the gap between where Jin sees it now and where Jin would have seen it before. There's an interaction between Laguna and Wise in like the bathhouse, and we find a little bit about Laguna that I thought was actually kind of interesting, because when we first met Laguna, he mentioned the story of like, as a swordsman, that he had this swords fighting friend that he trained with, and they're gonna become like the best swordsman in like the whole cosmos. But in reality, it was like this guy and him that were going to become actors. They were gonna rise up the ranks and become the best actors around. And his friend in the story that he initially told that he was gonna be a great swordsman with ended up dying. But when he told that as a lie, it was really like, it was a true story. But he just changed the whole setup of being an actor to a swordsman. I thought that was actually kind of interesting, because it did add a level of that kind of like very basic story arc, but instead changed it for an actor where he can still apply that dynamic of like him and his like kind of friend rival character, but instead put it towards a different job, putting it towards something like like acting instead of sword fighting. I thought that was just kind of interesting for Laguna's character, because that just means that when he first told it, again, he was sort of telling the truth. He wasn't just making something up entirely. But as he's doing it, he mentions that, like, at one point when he learned how to, like, cry on command, he couldn't tell if he was ever acting or actually crying, so it kind of, like, messed with his emotions. But now he wants to kind of, like, join the crew and, like, actually be a member, and he describes himself as, like, the waters that the Eden Zero crew will kind of, like, go down, like the pathway that they're meant to go down. He wants to be the kind of the waters that move the ship, which is kind of interesting. I like that everybody's kind of having their own kind of way that they tie into moving the Eden Zero and their job in the Eden Zero. I do like that. I thought that was really nice. I thought that was pretty good for Laguna's character, because I've still been pretty iffy on him, because he's still been kind of like sus. We know his backstory and stuff, but clearly he's kind of like trying to move past that and be a more compatible person for the crew, which is pretty pretty good for his character. But after this point, we have Hermit, who is going through all the archives and this old 15-year-old log. She finds out the next place that they went to 15 years before this point in the story was the Kaede Cosmos, and now they're gonna start like moving out to there, since it was where the Eden Zero went at one point after that way Cosmos. And they're just start kind of like grouping up and trying to figure out what they're gonna do. And Shiki's just bringing up like their quest is gonna continue. They're still gonna go try and find Mother and do something that no other ship has ever done before. And he stops referring to Ziki as his grandpa. He just starts referring to him as Ziki and saying how dangerous he is. And he even has a really nice flashback of when he got hurt at some point, and it was like where he got that scar and his grandpa put the bandage on him. It's just like no one can see it after that point. It was just being nice, and Shiki thought it looked cool, so that's why he just kept it all this time. But now he's taking it off and he's just let the scar out. So it's nice that the scar had a very important, significant meaning to it, because I gotta bring this up, because I had an issue with his scar personally, not like in a big way, but just kind of like a personal beef with him for the longest time. Because I really liked Natsu's facial scar in Alvarez. I thought it looked really sick. And then Mishima had it kind of like healed and erased, which is really weird because he never really does that with scars. He pretty much always keeps scars on characters, but he didn't do it with Natsu's facial scar. And then when we saw Shiki without the bandage and there's a scar there, I thought like, okay, that means that he probably wants the facial scar thing to be Shiki's, and he probably has something important in his story about it, and that's why he undid Natsu's facial scar near the end of the run of Alvarez before it got into 100 Years Quest, and he was getting Eden Zero all prepared. I've had this long standing beef with Shiki on a personal level, not in a bad way. It's more in like a kind of like a old man shakes fist thing, nothing serious, just a personal upset that he got to have the facial scar instead. Because I really like Natsu's facial scar, but I am happy that the facial scar for Shiki is used in a way that moves his character forward and progresses the story in a major way. I do like that. I think that's a fair trade-off, just because like Mishima definitely, I think, had it more as like a planned thing for Shiki to kind of just like sit on his story for the whole time up until this point, because that's obviously something that is important, and a plot point that's been tied to his character, even if it's not a major one, it's still tied to Shiki's since the start. And this is one of those ones where it is a long-standing point that is sitting in the series that does end up coming to light, and we see how it's used. And I think it was worth it. I thought it was pretty good for Shiki's character, because now they're gonna all go get stronger. So we're gonna have a training point and a time skip. And the time skip is way more than I thought. Like, I expected some form of time skip after the OA Cosmos, just because it ended with more major events, and I didn't think it was going to have a death in this arc. I figured it would be like an arc or so after this one. I thought this one was going to be kind of more like a Hades kind of battle, like how Sirius Island was, where Sirius Island was designed to be more of this kind of like climbing despair that led to an inevitable doom sort of kind of class scenario. But Eden Zero was like more of like this kind of like more personal fight with Shiki, and then they had a surprise death for Witch near the end. And The time skip, though, length is the thing that more surprises me than anything, because generally Mishima does time skips of, like, you know, a handful of months to maybe like half a year. That's like a more kind of gradual one. But when he wants to do like a major time skip, he'll do like in increments of like a year or so. 3 years is pretty big, because that's like the 3 year point is more than like all of real-time Rave Master happens. And 3 years is pretty much like what the main cast of Fairy Tail has experienced since the start. Like around 3 years or so. Which is, again, like a big thing when I mentioned it way earlier on, that Mishima said he didn't intend for Eden Zero to be a really long series. So we could easily be moving into a, a second half of the series. And I'd say second half almost kind of being a bit generous. And if he's kind of going to be moving this along to a climax a lot sooner than I thought. Because when you think about Eden Zero, and this is one thing I'll kind of end it with, is the first chunk of Eden Zero is up to the Belial Goer. Because after the Belial Goer, it's, you know, they cool down, everybody goes home, and it's all kind of chill. They didn't really lose anybody in the battle with Draken Joe, and they ended up all getting out of there, defeating the bad guy, and then it went back to Grand Bell, where Ziggy's stuff kind of transpired. And then, this all ends on a time skip this chapter, so this is going to be a new start to, multiple events moved along. And when you think about it like that, this means that this is essentially like a third kind of increment of where the story is going to set in the series. So who knows if Mishima is going to end up doing this in another, again, like, I don't think it'll be like 50 chapters, but like probably like 90 to maybe like 100 something, 120 chapters is looking good for Eden Zero. I'm fine if Eden Zero goes longer. I like Eden Zero, but this is definitely a big leap in time that I don't think a lot of people were suspecting, and I don't really know what Mishima's planning with it, like longevity-wise, if he's going to jump it this far, but we'll see. It could go in a lot of ways. Maybe he's going to show more of the life of Shiki and make it more of like a Dragon Ball series where you're seeing the main character in chunks of their life, a couple of years, and then years pass. Shiki starts as a naive kid, kind of gets more experience, and now he's like a young adult. Who knows exactly what he's gonna do? Like with Haru and Natsu, like you can definitely see good change when you look at like where they are, like end of series Haru and beginning of series Haru, and then like current Natsu to beginning of series Natsu. Shiki's definitely jumping like a long way in a time skip. And the thing that is going to be really weird about it is Mishima's going to have to figure out like a way to logically advance a lot of the characters in the crew 3 years like off of those events. So we'll see. I was actually really hoping it was going to be another arc before any like long time skip, because I wanted to see a lot of the interactions and fallout of this arc. But we'll see. Like, this is again interesting. I want to see what the designs are like now that we get back to them. Shiki does look a little strange in this outfit with it. I don't know if it's the angle, but I think it's just because he's got the short sleeves, but he's clearly a lot taller. And also, how tall is he supposed to be? Like, I don't imagine he's going to be like 6'5", but it's again going to depend on what Mishima wants to do, because Shiki's already seemed like pretty well in height, but I don't know if this is going to really like be one of those ones where again it's like Kid Goku to Goku. Or maybe like the younger Goku to like full adult Goku. Who knows, but we'll have to wait a couple days. I'm definitely going to look at the spoilers and try and see some of the pictures for this week. But other than that, comment below, thumbs up the video, a friend like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. But other than that, I appreciate all you subscribe. Thank you all for listening. Bye.